On this edition of Talking Preps, we're joined by Greg White, the head basketball coach at Bentonville West. How are you, sir?
Doing great, Blair. How are you?
Doing good. This has been a trying time for everybody. How have you been coping with what's been going on?
I've been busier. I feel like than I have been in the past. Being able just to focus on basketball and spend a lot of time talking to coaches and kind of just reflecting on myself as a coach. And that's been the big thing for me is just this is the first time in any of our lives that we haven't had a schedule. Other than appointments that you make on your own, like it's daytime and nighttime. Weekends have blended into weekdays, and it all kind of feels the same. So it's been, I wouldn't say I'm enjoying it. I'm saying I'm making the best out of it. I think I've talked to a lot of coaches more. I've had time to really focus on that side of the job. And so not that I wouldn't say refreshing because it's a weird feeling and the fears out there. We know it's a serious situation, but I think it's been there's going to be a lot of changes coming out of this, and I think good changes too. So,
And I know one thing, you've been involved in several of the online basketball clinics. I've actually snuck in a few of those, and it's been very interesting. That's one way to stay active. And how much do you pick up involved in those? I know you've given some presentations as well.
yeah, I spoke at one, I guess last month when all this kind of started, um, and I'm doing one again tomorrow night. Then I attend as much as I can because I think that's something coaches we always talk about our players trying to get better and spend time, and so I'm attending as much as I can. We host a couple Zooms, me and some local coaches. Brad Stamps is one. We get on once a week together and just kind of talk. And it's been really refreshing, I think is the word I keep going back to, is for coaches to have this time to really focus. Most of us, we finish the season. We're trying to get everything put up, paperwork, uniforms, inventory. And then you start getting ready for spring break, and then you've got tryouts, and all that's just gone away. And so right now it's really getting to focus on the game of basketball. And that's been a lot of fun for me during all this. Has had a chance to really do that.
What's maybe the one thing that you've picked up on these clinics? I know, and it's important to continue to evolve too, because you can always pick up new things and continue learning. Has there been anything that's really jumped out at you over the course of attending these clinics?
Yeah, a lot of it's just the efficiency that people have. And one thing I've learned, not to try to add everything I learned from someone else. So a lot of times I'm listening just as a student of the game because I'd love to hear people's passion talking about basketball. Um, I'm also using it as a scouting report because there's things I know I can't use and wouldn't fit for us, but I know other coaches in our league do. So I want to learn what they're teaching and how they're teaching it so I can have a better chance to defeat it. But I would say number one is the passion. Number two is the efficiency that people are going. And these are college coaches, high school coaches that talk. And it's been really, really enlightening that we're all going through the same issues. It's just, I make my salary and a guy in the SEC is making, $3 million, and a guy coaching Division III is making less than some high school coaches I know. But we all have the same passion. We all have the same problems. And that's great about coaches is we all share so much.
Yeah, I've really been impressed too with the number of coaches that have been involved in the clinic. I mean, Billy Donovan, all the way down to junior high coaches. It's really been impressive. Well, let's talk
Yeah,
about player.
I tell people.
Go ahead. I'm
But I
sorry.
tell people I see myself on that list, and I know I don't belong there. But I've had great response from coaches around the country. It makes me proud about what we're doing at West, but it's also I've been very fortunate, blessed with relationships I have in this game that have provided me the opportunity to do that.
Well, no doubt relationship is a key part of coaching. And speaking of that with the players, not being able to go out and play, how is this going to impact player development? Because the summer is always such an important time for players to work on their game and improve and develop.
We've kind of taken a different approach. If you would ask us what stage we're in right now, I would say we're in hibernation. Our players are pushed so hard academically, socially with, social media has changed how a kid grows up. And this is the first time that we, in all of our lifetime, that you've, maybe except from when we were kids, Blair, that you can just not do anything and it's okay. And we haven't done, I watch all these coaches talking about all the workouts they're sending, and we send stuff out because we know we have guys that want to do some things. But as a group, we've kind of just let them experience what they're going through right now without the overload. I mean, online school is tough as it is. And so we've kind of what we would call been in a hibernation. May 1st is our first let's crank back up day. And we'll treat the month of May as, hey, we're going to get back together soon. And let's make sure we're having more player meetings, more workouts, kind of more of an accountability, I guess. But right now, we just check on them to see how they're doing. I think that's one of the things we take away from kids is the ability to experience things that they're going through. This is something that'll change all of our lives. And I want, speaking on behalf of my sons, I want them to be able to talk to their families about what they experienced, how they felt, not having a structured education system, not having a practice to go to. So we've kind of taken that stance of we're going to let our guys experience this, focus on their family first, and then we can always get back. But back to your question, development's going to slow because now you've got to become creative and you find out you're motivated players. Where I think there'll be a lot of changes with participation numbers. I think some will go down. I think guys will get away from a sport that maybe they felt pushed by their parents and realize they didn't miss it that much. And I think other sports will see a spike in participation where kids want to be involved with something now because they sit in their house for 60, 90 days. So it's going to change the look of a lot of things in athletics, and that's some good coming out of that. There's I have a balance with summer basketball. I know there's some really good programs like the Banshees in Arkansas, and we're affiliated. We have players that play for Mocan and stuff like that. So I know there's some really good that comes out of it. But there's also some really bad, and a lot of those people, are not making money right now, hosting weekend tournaments and on kids and charging parents a ton of money. And I'm not too sad about that going away. I am, worried about players missing some exposure. So we've spent a lot of time talking to college coaches. We just had a player commit this week. We've got another player talking, and then I'll start working for our 2021s and 2022 kids. And so that it's really kind of strengthening relationships. I think relationships will be the biggest thing you see change out of this because we all miss that interaction of talking.
No question about it. And I guess, like you mentioned, one nice point, it's kind of forcing everybody to stop and take a break, which honestly, without this, I don't know, some people might not have done that, and that necessarily isn't healthy to just keep grinding constantly. Right.
No, and we don't. That's the thing, like, a three-sport athlete like Jonas Hickson at West, those are things of the past, because, and we're all guilty of it. Football's guilty, basketball's guilty, track, baseball, everything. We all want to be the number one sport and encourage kids to play other stuff. But this has forced all of us just to stop. And I like that for the kids' sake. I don't like that they're not being able to do things out of the fear and the safety. But I think this has been beneficial. I know, my son hasn't really, he talks about missing it, but he's not at that point now where, it's just it's driven crazy. I think the rest is good for their body and their mind. And I think you'll see a lot more smiles when it gets time to be back on the practice court and the practice field.
Oh, no question about that. One of the things you've been doing, you've got a podcast that have put out, as we put up on the screen, the Last of the Cowboys podcast. How did that come about, and how's the reception been?
It's been really good. It's kind of a shocker. So Last of the Cowboys, Tate's Lock is a big mentor of mine. And people that don't know Tate's hired Bobby Knight at Army. He's 83, lives in Jacksonville, Florida. I talk to him about once a week. And Tate's calls high school coaches the last of the Cowboys, meaning the last protectors of the game. And so I'd been approached by some people about doing a podcast because they know I like to talk. As some of your listeners may turn me off quick, but they know I like to talk, and I've been blessed about being connected with people. But I'm also very committed to protecting our game, and so we started that. And I think there's only been 2 put out. I think there's more coming out this week or something. But one of them was big time fun for me. Was myself, Brad Stamps, Jeremy Price, and Kyle Pennington. We just sat down and had a conversation that we haven't gotten to have yet. We were on the same staff at Springdale. Brad was the head coach in 2014, about a 3-year stretch. And, now we're all 4 head coaches, 3 of us in the same league. But just to go back and relive those times and kind of the relationship part that built out of that, that was fun. But it's been good. I've got guests lined up. It's just, it's funny with all this time now you have to make time to do things. And so that's one of those, like just trying to connect with some other coaches and telling stories and really enjoying that.
Yeah, it was really a fun. I love hearing all the old stories too. I mean, and just the passion you guys had on that episode. That was really a lot of fun. You're also active on Twitter. Man, you're everywhere. You're all over it. I mean, and a wealth of information. Not only the podcast on the blog, but also posts. I mean, how do you find time to do all this?
I think the best thing to say about Twitter is this. Twitter is a conversation with yourself, and you just hope somebody, agrees with you. And sometimes they're going to disagree with you, and that's fine too. But I've kind of changed my tone a little bit about it because I used to, people would probably say I was very anti-summer, anti-AAU, which wasn't true. I was anti-bad basketball. And, at times it would get combative and you have an argument. And now I realize, those guys are, for the most part, a lot of those guys are really good guys, the guys that I'm still friends with on that. But there's some part on every part of just in your job and in my job and every part of the job, there's some people that just aren't in line with what we all believe. And so I've kind of learned, to pick my fights when not to, but this game has given me so much. I played at Cudamarung Star in Hot Springs, a Class A school at the time, 500 kids. And 2 summers ago, I was standing on a stage in Las Vegas, Nevada, with USA Basketball on my chest, speaking about our program at Bentonville West. And, I tell people I've been lucky. I've been very fortunate. I also know I've worked my tail off to be in those situations. And so it's kind of fun how it's all started. Alan Stein's one of my best friends. One day we were having a talk, and he's like, "You should start a Twitter account." And I was like, "Why? I don't even know what Twitter is." And he was like, "Well, you've got a lot of great ideas, a lot of good things to say." And, and lo and behold, I think we're, I don't know, a couple thousand followers, something later, here we are. And it's opened up doors for me. It's given me a chance to speak at clinics around the country. I've met some of my best friends on Twitter that we actually end up getting together and meeting and spending time. But it's been it's fun. It's a nice way to communicate. And I've learned there's things you can block. I don't get caught up in all the political stuff on there. I don't get caught up in everything else. I definitely don't like to get spoiler alerts on TV. So I've learned what to look at, what not to. But it's a great tool. We just have to be cautious with it, and you got to understand also too, I'm not always going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. But I enjoy it, and it's been fun for me.
It's definitely an interesting place. The Rage right now, the Bulls documentary, I trust you've seen both episodes so far. Your thoughts on that?
Wow. Number one, we all lived it. And the debate, the LeBron MJ debate, I knew would pick up heat because of this, but just listening. Well, first of all, I was very proud because you see Joe Klein on there, you see Scottie Pippen, and I had buddies texting me about, Arkansas. And I'm like, yeah, I told you we got good guys here, and so it's God's country. Everybody wants to live in Arkansas. But we were, there were a couple of things I really noticed, and I made a couple of points on. The first one was how lucky you've got to be good. People don't realize how much luck plays into winning. The Trailblazers passed on MJ. if they don't, we're not watching the last dance of the Bulls. I mean, so they're lucky. I mean, hard work, yeah, all that stuff, but you got to be lucky too. And then the second part of that was bad leadership can destroy any momentum. The strongest momentum in the world was the Chicago Bulls, and poor leadership ended it. And another thing I made a comment about was when we found out about Scottie Pippen's contract. I had no idea. In today's day and age, he would have been traded by the All-Star break because Twitter would have blown up and he'd be following it, and he'd have gone in and demanded a trade. So it's a blessing. It happened at that time of life without all the social media, without all the access, but it's been impressive. I can't wait for the next week. I mean, I think I agree with everybody in America. We would all sit up at 4 a.m. just to finish it. Like, we're all captivated. So it was big time. It
was amazing. Two things kind of stood out to me. One, we understood the explanation from Scotty's standpoint of why he did sign that contract, because his family, which, and
I had to explain it to people because we know where Hamburg is, and we know that his mind was, I'm going to take care of my family first. And I was like, guys, y'all don't understand. That's South Arkansas. I mean, so we got it. But yeah.
Yeah. And then just the drive that Jordan had. I mean, we knew he was a good player when he was in college, and he was driven, but to see the behind the scenes, I mean, holy cow. We knew he was competitive with the golf and, going to the casino at night and stuff, but man, I mean, to actually see it from behind the scenes vantage point, how would you not want a guy like that as a teammate who just he just wants to win?
I think I made a comment about this to somebody too. The part where he played golf with Danny Ainge on his off day, and and people complain about today's games too buddy and all this. But I was like, that's fine, because he was just wanting to compete. I said, but I wasn't there, but I can promise you, MJ never once thought, man, I want to go play for the Celtics so I have a chance to win. That's the difference between him and some of these other guys. I think Kobe Bryant was the next closest to MJ. If I was going to give you my top guys, my number one's MJ, number two is Kobe, number three is Bill Russell, number four is Kareem, and then LeBron's probably five. But just the mentality MJ had, like you were saying, the drive. I'm excited about this week. I've heard it's the one where he talks about having to get through the Pistons. So I did my homework. I watched 30 for 30, Bad Boys this week already. I'm caught up. I was actually a Bad Boys fan the first time.
Really?
Before Jordan, yes, because everybody else loved MJ. And, I mean, I know it's hard to believe. I was a lot skinnier, probably the same bad athlete, a lot skinnier. So I loved Dennis Rodman. And I fell in love with Bill Laimbeer because I could be Bill Laimbeer for my buddies that were good. I could just foul hard and set screens. So the first time through, I wasn't really a Jordan fan too much. And the moment for me was when they were playing the Knicks. And you'll remember the clip. Him and Xavier McDaniel are nose to nose. And it's NBC TV, and they have it obviously not real good on it. We haven't had the Super Bowl yet, so we're not 6-second delay. And he had some comments for Xavier, and I was like, that's my guy right there. I'm like, I am all in now. So that was the day for me. That's the exact moment that I picked MJ's going to be my guy. So
yeah, and that Bad Boys team, I mean, that really kind of brought on a new wave of a different way to play basketball. Suddenly it became a very physical game as opposed to kind of a finesse game up to that point. And boy, they took it to the other extreme. It was unbelievable.
Some guys close to me know this. That was something I looked at about our West team, because we knew we weren't always going to have the best athletes. And we kind of, that first class, the 17 class, 17-18 season, we had some guys that fit that role pretty well and kind of accepted it. I don't have the hair for Chuck Daly, but we tried to play our own certain brand of Bad Boys basketball.
Well, there's a way to play Bad Boys basketball that's within the rules, and then sometimes
sure. I mean, yeah.
And don't anyone get the impression West was playing Piston Ball, because that was just was like we saw in the trailer where he just shoves the guy out of bounds. Yeah. I can't remember who it was, but Man, that was unbelievable. But yeah, it's going to be really fun to watch the next 3 episodes. I'm kind of surprised they're I mean, I get why they're dragging it out because the ratings are through the roof. But man, we're so used to binging things now and not having to wait. That's the frustration. There's nothing else on. They're killing us.
That's my number one argument post on the who's number one, who's the GOAT of all time between MJ and LeBron. I'll ask them, do you know what a playoff foul is? And if they're like, and they just look at me, I'm like, you have no idea what he survived to be who he is. You know, I mean, there was somebody, I can't remember who it was saying if he played in today's rules, he'd average 50 a game. Oh, because you can't touch him, you know, so.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that stood out too about Jordan was the fact that they brought up Sidney, which is another great Arkansas player who I think people forget how great defensively he was, even in college.
Defensive player of the year. How many times? I don't know how many times, but I mean, just incredible.
Yeah. I mean, he did everything offensively for Arkansas, but he guarded the best player on the other team when he was a Razorback. And then he goes to the NBA, and we see that, he can still do it at the NBA level. He couldn't stop Jordan. No, I mean, and he was stopping everybody.
This guy's special, yeah.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, I've kept you maybe a little longer than we thought, but would you like to play the quick quiz real quick?
Heck yeah.
All right, here we go. Strap in.
All right.
All right, what's more likely to be on your playlist? A little classic country or classic rock and roll?
Oh, I'd probably say AC/DC.
Okay. Favorite AC/DC song?
Used to be Back in Black until I took the West job, and I kind of got to stay away from anything with black in it. So probably Thunderstruck.
That'll work. Very politically correct done. Streaming. I don't know if you're a streaming guy or not, but if you are, what's most likely to watch tonight, Hulu or Netflix?
Netflix.
Excellent. And speaking of Netflix, what would you be more likely to watch, Tiger King or Ozark?
I've watched them both. If you haven't seen Ozark, the ending, all I can say is wow.
Yes.
And if you've watched Tiger King, then you all know Carol Baskin did it. So
yeah.
I'm probably going to go back and watch Ozark before, because Tiger King just kind of bothered me a little bit too much there at the end.
Yeah, and I have no desire to watch the last episode, which everybody said was just terrible. Yeah. The Zoom call or whatever it was. So you think Carol did kill her husband?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Board games at the White household, Monopoly or Uno?
Probably would end in a fight, Uno.
That would not be good. And best wrestler of all time, the Nature Boy or the Hulkster? Yes.
Ric Flair.
Woo!
I don't have my Ric Flair shirt on today. Coach Mackey got me a Ric Flair T-shirt. I wear as much as possible. Yeah. Limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun.
Yeah. Do the kids today even have any idea how big he was? I mean, he was an icon that crossed all sports, not on the level of Muhammad Ali, but everybody, at least in the South, knew who Ric Flair was and thought he was cool, and still do.
Let's be honest. It was real back when we were kids. Like now, like, come on. But I mean, you had the Von Erichs. We could do an entire episode on old wrestling.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Yeah, we'll get stamps. Yeah. We'll get stamps in on that.
Boy, man,
good times.
Yeah. Oh, it's the best time to grow up. We had all that fun stuff.
Yes.
The figure four hurts, by the way. If you've ever had it put on you, it hurts.
Yes. It's not. Yeah. And these guys were doing it, driving 10 hours between stops and doing it every night for very little pay.
In college, I got to go, I say I got to, WCW Nitro in Memphis at Mid-South Coliseum.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, we went. And, this was when NWO was there. And I didn't know this when we got there. Like, we had horrible seats. We're at the very top of Mid-South. And I was complaining the whole time about our seats. And the guy was like, just trust me. I know why we're up here. And that was when Sting would drop through the roof. And so our like 10 seconds of fame is him dropping through the roof right in front of us. And it looked like we were like behind him about to go fight NWO. It was awesome. Yeah.
Wow.
VCR. Yeah. VHS, VCR moment.
Yeah. Well, and the Mid-South Coliseum was obviously the best place to see wrestling, at least in our area.
Probably where COVID-19 started was in Mid-South Coliseum. I mean, if we want to be honest. So.
Yeah, that's true. Is it even still standing?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Oh, man. Unbelievable. Well, sir, I appreciate your time very much. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
Absolutely. I'm all in. Yeah.
All right. Great. That's Greg White, the head basketball coach at Bentonville West, and that'll do it for this edition of Talking Preps.